On October 26th of this year, in Philadelphia, two police officers killed a man named Walter Wallace Jr. This has sparked quite a bit of controversy in the United States of late. Walter Wallace Jr. had schizophrenia and he was wielding a knife, and the police officers shot him, and it was all caught on video. This comes from the New York Times in What We Know About the Death of Walter Wallace Jr. in Philadelphia, written on November 4th of 2020. I believe that we should implement divisions in police forces called crisis intervention teams. These crisis intervention teams can deal with people who are suffering from mental illness and can abet incidences like that of Walter Wallace Jr. Furthermore, they can help decrease our spending on prisoners and increase our spending on treatment of mentally ill individuals. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, in Mental Illness updated November of 2020, 13.1 million people in the United States have a serious mental illness. This shows the severity of the problem. We don't usually think about it, but many people in the United States today have some sort of mental illness. Now, as I decided in my value debate, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was 16, and I've been through multiple crises. Now, I believe I can sympathize with people like Walter Wallace Jr. Now I will determine the ill, blame, and cure, and I will discuss the cost-to-benefit ratio of my argument. Most mentally ill individuals are thrown in prison, or even worse, sometimes killed. Not only is this morally wrong, but it takes a toll on our economy and our communities. According to the Federal Register, in their article, The Annual Determination of Average Costs of Incarceration, written on April 30th of 2018, the average cost of an inmate per year in 2017 was over $35,000. Furthermore, according to the Treatment Advocacy Center in How Many Individuals with Serious Mental Illness Are in Jails and Prisons, updated in November of 2014, 20% of inmates have serious mental illness. Put together, these statistics paint a bleak picture. They paint the fact that our economy is taking a toll on incarcerating individuals who are mentally ill. Now that I've explained my ill, I will move on to my blame. I believe that the blame should be placed on the ignorance of police officers. But this is not the primary blame, as most of those police officers were never trained any better. Therefore, I believe that the blame should be placed on the negligence of the police academy. The idea that mentally ill individuals should be treated like criminals and not like something different just points to the fact that there is still social stigma around mental health. Without change, we will always have instances like that of Walter Wallace Jr., and prisons will always be the determined housing units of our mentally ill. Now that I have decided the blame, I will now develop my cure. There needs to be a change in how the police officer trains its future officers. They need to implement a special division to deal with mentally ill individuals. According to the LAPD, in their article, the LAPD Organization Chart, there is no division that deals with the mentally ill currently. I believe we need to petition local governments to develop these divisions in their own respective police forces. And I believe that they should allow police officers to go through special training if they would like. Now that I've put forth my cure, I will talk about the cost-to-benefit ratio. In order to implement this new division, it's obviously going to cost a lot of money. We will have to spend for the development of divisions in the police police academy, and we will have to hire specialists in order to train these police officers that need to be trained. However, the monetary cost will pale in comparison to the benefits. Less injuries of mentally ill and police officers will occur given that we implement CITs, or Crisis Intervention Teams. For example, according to the National Alliance of Mental Illness, in their article, Crisis Intervention Team, CIT programs, in Memphis, CIT programs led to an 80% reduction in police officer injuries during mental health crisis calls. Additionally, CITs would lead to the decrease in incarceration of mentally ill and to the increase in treatment of the mentally ill, which would ultimately result in less spending. Now that I've talked about my cost to benefit ratio, I will now conclude my debate. In this debate, I've determined my ill, my cure, my blame, and my cost to benefit ratio. Now I hope you see that we should implement CITs, or crisis intervention teams, in the police academy today. I hope now that you will advocate for mental health awareness, and I hope you will advocate for mental health education. I believe that doing this will lead to fewer incidences like that of Walter Wallace Jr., because it will lead to the change in that people will not be afraid to get help for what they need to get help for. I believe that if we as a society can overcome such social stigmas like slavery and women's suffrage, we will have no problem overcoming mental health stigma. With the push of a few advocates and the education of the rest of us, I believe that we can make this world a better place for everyone.